This is a 10-year overnight success, as they say. There's two ways to innovate. One, just throwing out all the rules. The second is actually understanding the rules very precisely and then building new rules on top of them. People gotta get creative. Innovation is net difference. Like, you gotta come up with a new way to get there. You know, it's like continuing to try to get through the same small hole that everyone else is trying to get through is never gonna lead to like outsized returns. You have to come up with creative ways to do that. People don't realize how big alcohol actually is and how big a product like BRÄZ can actually become. Think about how many major old school industries were disrupted in the last 20 years, 30 years, whether it was the phone book or an encyclopedia, travel, the cab industry. Do you know what's never been disrupted? Alcohol.
If you haven't yet used Motion, the creative analytics platform used by top e-com and D2C brands like Fiori, True Classic, The Farmer's Dog, Hexclad, and hundreds more to ship winning ads, here's why you should try it out. Everyone knows that the right creative is the number one lever for success with paid ads. That's how you make money. But consistently shipping new winning creative, you're gonna need your media buyers and your creative teams on the same page. Right now, you're probably spending hours tiring away going back and forth between Google Sheets and your ad platforms and tools, and then spending even more time plugging it all into different decks for the rest of your team. In a perfect world, you could have an elegant way to combine visual assets and performance data so media buyers can save time and creative teams can get the details they need to make great ads all in one place. And that's where Motion comes in. In seconds, you can build powerful visual reports using data from your ad accounts. You can monitor your performance metrics and see your visual assets in the same platform. No need to go back and forth across multiple apps. You'll finally have media buyers and creative teams working together to create and scale your next big winner. If you're ready to learn how the best D2C and e-commerce brands use Motion to ship winning Meta, TikTok, and YouTube ads, book a demo today or start a free trial at motionapp.com/DTC. Even better, Motion offers a monthly subscription plan so you can dodge those annoying annual contracts. Get 50% off your first month when you use the link motionapp.com/DTC on sign up. Welcome to the D2C Podcast, man. This is a long time coming. Been following you since my days when I was running a failed newsletter for boomers called Boundless Boomer, where we were going to try to sell them CBD on the back end. It never quite came into fruition. It wasn't the worst idea. It taught me how to run a newsletter, which has paid dividends.
Totally.
But catch us up. I think you're one of the most well-known D2C entrepreneurs right now, just because you're building probably the fastest growing beverage company in the world right now. I keep seeing your, this slew of good news that you're sort of architecting over there. So congrats, first of all.
Thanks, dude. It's been fucking crazy, like crazy. It's I'm extremely grateful. I have a really smart team. It's a lot of preparatory work that you're ready for something great to happen, and then it does. I like that quote. I think Steve Jobs said it was like it always surprised him how long instant success takes. It's like a lot of people. I think a lot of people hear about me or BRÄZ for the first time. Even it's like, where did this brand come from? It just popped up out of nowhere. But we've been friends for a long time. I've been in the D2C world, and my team's been in the D2C world for a really long time. And so this is a 10-year overnight success, as they say.
So when you were, I know you were sort of working, you had an agency kind of in the cannabis or CBD space. Walk us through your hero's journey to actually pulling it together to be like, I'm going to put my flag in the ground. I'm going to go and build my own product. You might've been doing that for a while, actually, though.
Yeah, that's the other thing is I've been building D2C brands also for a long time. I started back when I was, way back when I was like 10 years old. I got access to a computer for the first time, and I started building websites, and then I just got into hacking iPods, and then somehow I got into designing app icons for like hacked iPods or iPod touches. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to design t-shirts. And then I started designing t-shirts, and then I got essentially those printed, and then I tried to sell them on the internet. So I signed up for like Big Cartel, which was like the early Shopify, like before there was ever a Shopify or Big Commerce or any of these guys. Like Big Cartel was the e-commerce website. And so Big Cartel and MySpace, and I would sponsor endorse bands like Never Shout Never, like very scene kid stuff, or The Cab, things like this. Send them shirts, they put it on their MySpace, and then people would order on our Big Cartel. It's like essentially influencer marketing today, and really all influencer marketing is really just endorsements at the end of the day, or some level of it. So that's where I really got my start, was back then. And then I really cut where I really cut my teeth was a brand called Monk. It was a portable aromatherapy diffuser. We essentially took vape pens like blue e-cigarette type vibes, and we took the nicotine and tobacco out, and we added essential oils. So what that did is it made it comparable to like an aromatherapy diffuser. So where you have your diffuser, you put the essential oils, and then it's blows smoke, it vaporizes the essential oils into the air. We did that, but we made it portable, so you could just kind of breathe them direct from a pen. So we had like these different mood states, like you could feel happy, sleepy, sexy, healthy, whatever, from these different essential oil pens. And so that brand scaled very quickly from like 0 to 15 million a year in like 2 years. And back then when, so I was the CMO over there, I thought I co-owned it, but at the time I didn't know how to dot my I's and cross my T's. So I got kind of royally fucked on that deal.
Phantom equity and it ghosted.
Yeah. Phantom equity. That's so funny, especially it's Halloween today when we're recording.
That's right.
So that was, so that's where I cut my teeth. And so that was cool. I learned a lot. And back then 15 million a year was like a big D2C brand. Like this is like probably 2014, 15, like there was a few outliers that got massive, but you didn't see $100 million, $200 million D2C brands the same way you do today. Like back then a $15 million a year D2C brand, that was a big D2C brand. So we were in the top 50 fastest growing companies in the world 2 years in a row. So that's where I started learning a lot about terpene and aromatherapy and wellness. And that's also where I learned Facebook advertising actually back then. So I caught that first wave of Facebook ads. And so I really learned a lot there. So
were there any restrictions on that product? I know, because I know when I caught up with you, you were sort of an expert at these restricted categories. Were there did you learn that with the aromatherapy or did you learn that after?
That's exactly right, actually. Yeah, I forget to mention that sometimes. It's like, we try to advertise this stuff and we got shut down every which way on the aromatherapy pens. They're like, oh, these are vaporizers. And so I wrote a letter to Zuckerberg and like all these other people. And I was like, this is not a vaporizer. This is not an e-cigarette. This is an aromatherapy diffuser. It uses essential oils and vaporizer technology. And I'm like, this is the definition of innovation. And if you don't, like whoever I wrote this email to, I think it was Zuck. I don't know. I sent it to someone. I was like, if you don't see that, the corporate machine is 8 years old or something like this. Something like really ridiculous that I probably shouldn't have said.
That's hilarious.
But I sent it because it was like in my head, like I grew up paying attention to these guys like Zuckerberg and Musk, like while I was in the middle of nowhere, Illinois on my MacBook, thinking like this is what entrepreneurship is. And these guys always embodied this idea of just radical innovation. It's like breaking the systems. And so I'm like, how is the guy who broke the system, Zuckerberg, going to tell me now becomes the system and tells me I can't innovate, And so I think I always took that a little personally to this day. So I said that. And then, a couple days later, our ad account got unlocked and we were the first non-vaporizer to ever advertise on Meta. And so
it worked.
like it worked. And I don't know who saw it. I don't know. Maybe it just happened to be.
Let's say Zuckerberg.
Let's say you really cut him to his core.
You're like, oh, I'm not a sellout.
He's like, I'm not a corporate.
That is the most successful thing I've heard working from that level of like shout out. I actually have a friend, he would hate that I'm mentioning this, but who's actually like orchestrated like press campaigns to pressure Facebook where he's like worked with journalists and tried to get, it's interesting that dimension of things.
And I don't know if it could have,
Yeah.
It could have just randomly been that like our ad account just got a review at the same time, but it's a cool story. So it kind of worked out. The point is we became the first non-vaporizer, which was really a vaporizer with essential oils in it, to advertise on Facebook and Instagram. That was a major deal. Like you didn't see ads for vapes on Facebook and Instagram, and all of a sudden you're seeing portable aromatherapy diffusers. People are using these products. So that gave us a lot of opportunities. We scaled the hell out of that company. And then I learned that way that like there's two ways. A big revelation I had there was there's two ways to innovate. There's one, just throwing out all the rules. The second is actually understanding the rules very precisely and then building new rules on top of them. And that's what we did at Monk. It's like I knew that the rules said no e-cigarettes. I knew the rules said that there's no vaporizers, but we weren't an e-cigarette because we didn't have nicotine in our product. We weren't vaporizers as they defined it in their policy because we didn't have nicotine in our product. So like upon an actual close review, we weren't breaking the rules. And I think that was actually the catalyst that facilitated our success. So I carried that over. I started a CBD brand in 2018 called Maku, and I tried to advertise it, and I just got shut down every which way possible. And I think you know this, of course you know this, but for those who don't know this, 2018 is when the Farm Bill passed, which legalized hemp. Hemp is defined as cannabis sativa below 0.3% THC by weight. So what that means is essentially like hemp is just marijuana that's really low THC. And so we started a CBD brand, and I was really excited, but I tried to advertise it on Facebook and I got shut down every which way. I finally got some ads live and we drove like 60K in recurring revenue. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so cool, whatever. And then I just got like royally shut down, like really bad penalty. My whole account was taken down. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to advertise ever again. And I think it just like really frustrated me. And I just like had a personal vendetta of like, I'm going to figure out how to advertise CBD and hemp products. And I just kept working on it and kept working on it. Eventually I found some traction through essentially like a clause in the policy that said that you could educate consumers about CBD and hemp as long as it wasn't like selling on that page. So I started doing these like compliant CBD and hemp advertisements, and I partnered up with Nick Shackelford and some of these other guys. So I had more direct support at Meta. Nick, for those who don't know, Nick has like he had Structured, which was a big agency that had a lot of spend. So we did this partnership deal, and then Lucid like was seen as part of that same company in the eyes of Meta, which gave me like a straight line of access to Meta to kind of like point out to them that everything that we're doing is actually compliant and they need to allow it, or the corporate machines ate your soul.
That's a smart move. That's a pretty non-standard ladder right there, right? To when you're talking about like building new rules on top of old rules, like partner with an agency that has that traction with the brand. That's totally. With Facebook. That's cool,
dude. And like people gotta get creative. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the thing is like, innovation is net difference. Like it's net new different. Like you gotta do something new. You gotta come up with a new way to get there. It's like if you like continuing to try to get through the same small hole that everyone else is trying to get through is never going to lead to like outsized returns. You have to come up with creative ways to do that, and then find other people who have that similar mindset. Like the reason me and Nick make good partners is he's kind of like that. It's like we both have kind of like this creative, like hackster, innovative kind of mindset to us that to look for that. So anyway, did that partnership. That gave me the meta access I need. I had the compliant strategies. And then we started compliantly advertising for some of the biggest brands in hemp and cannabis. And to this day, Lucid is running 90% of all cannabis and hemp ads on social media, 80 to 90%, but the majority for sure.
And can you give us just a high level on what that strategy is? I know we have a lot of restricted advertisers in the audience. I know there's a lot of nuance to be careful about, but essentially it's that 2 clicks away strategy that we've kind of talked about before. Is that right?
Yeah, like there's kind of there's like levels to it. So there's one which is like if you advertise educational information about CBD and hemp, that's just compliant. You can do that all day long, but you can't sell on that page, on the page you're driving to. It has to be educational, but then it can lead to additional information, which can include sales material. That's one. 2 is like you can advertise hemp products, but you can't advertise CBD and THC products. But the trouble with that is like BRÄZ is a THC and CBD hemp product. So it's like we can advertise the fact that BRÄZ is a hemp product, but we can't advertise the fact that BRÄZ is a THC and CBD product. So that's kind of the nuance. Like, don't mention THC and CBD on the landing page and in your ads, or at least do your best to avoid it until you get really good at it. That's one key. The other key is like be a really good advertiser. Like know how to have a healthy account. Like don't create conditions where your account is just in poor standing. It's like whether it's rejected ads or whether it's like there's just a lot of like little things that you can do to just like keep your ad account in good standing. And the better standing your ad account is, the less flags you give, etc. So we're kind of like in this like weird gray area of almost what I'd say like an activist agency, where like some of our strategies are compliant, some of them are a little bit more activist. And again, like, think about it, man, like Zuck is a innovator and a breaker of things. Like he's changing the world actively and has been for decades. It's like, I don't really think he's that anti-cannabis or hemp or BRÄZ or any of this stuff. I don't think he even really cares. I think he's just trying to cover himself in the liability sense to a degree by making these things that are kind of in this regulatory evolving place. He's just trying to stay free from it for corporate policy. But I mean, what I mean by that is like I don't think that they actually care about this hemp advertising stuff. I think that they, and the reality is these products are federally legal as well. So anyway, so that's how we do it. It's taken different variations and evolutions over the years, and I'm sure it will years to come. It gets especially challenging during election periods. The policy is tighter for everyone during this period of time, so you got to be really careful. But I think it's ultimately like advertising cannabis products is only going to get easier and easier. There's places like X where you can fully advertise THC and CBD however you want. like there's certain limitations. I think it's like the states that it's legal in, or the states that hemp's legal in, you have to focus on those places, but you can do that. And then Snapchat, dude, just rolled us out as well, full compliance, where we can advertise THC and CBD from hemp in places where it's legal. So that's been a huge unlock over the last 2 days, actually. And I think you might have saw some of those revenue numbers we posted, but part of that was Snapchat getting unlocked.
That's wild. Well, take me back just to the beginning of BRÄZ. Like you'd already launched a CBD product. You had your agency. Edibles, consumables is such an exciting category for health reasons and for growth reasons. Talk to me about like coming up with BRÄZ and launching it. And how long has it been now?
18 months.
18 months.
Yeah, 18, 19. Right, we're about to go into our 19th month, I think. So
that's absolutely wild. And what are your goals crazy for year 2? You told me in the pre-interview, I don't know if they've evolved in the last little while, but what are your goals in year 2 of this CPG brand?
That's a great question. Right now, so we launched it on 4/20, 2023. In that first 8-month period, we did like close to $2 million in revenue, I think. So there was that. And then in our first, yeah, it's crazy. And then in our first 12-month period now, so like from January 1 of 24 to the end of this year, January of 2021 of 25, I think we'll do around 25 million, give or take a million or two up or down. So depending on how, Black Friday, Cyber Monday pan out and things like that, which is just crazy growth. My hope is to at least double it next year. It depends a lot on how this the regulatory landscape evolves. I think it'd be really cool if we could get to 100 million next year. And I think the weird thing, man, is like I know it's possible, and I think it's likely, and like I know that, like in a very like deep sense. Now it's the legality side of it. There's a lot of states that are creating frameworks that make this fully legal. There's other states that make it more complicated. There's big alcohol players who want to put this under their system and their distribution system, so that way it stays within there. And they want to some of them might want to cut off D2C and make that much more challenging. You have cannabis players who are like, hey, wait, what the heck? What happened? Beverages don't sell in dispensaries, so they're kind of freaking out, because there's this missed opportunity where we're getting mainstream access of THC products on a federal level to all kinds of mainstream consumers that the dispensary people never had really access to, and their experience selling beverages in dispensaries has been it's a very small portion of their sales. It's less than 2% of total sales in dispensaries are beverage. So they didn't even really care about beverage yet. So you have cannabis monopolies that are like, hey, wait, we want a piece of that. And then you have alcohol guys that are like, alcohol's on a little bit of a downtrend. This is a new growth category. They want to put it under theirs. And then you have this hemp category, players like myself that are the ones doing it. So it's crazy time, man. And because you, I'm sure know this, but people don't realize how big alcohol actually is and how big a product like BRÄZ can actually become. It's not small. It's not in the realm of D2C as most traditionally know it. We all kind of live in this like $100-200 million, like the height of success world. That's not actually the case in real CPG business and real beverage. Like Monster Energy, for example, I'm sure you know this, is worth $60 billion. $60 billion. They sell green water with caffeine in it, dude. It's
funny. I was thinking about this when I was following the Puff Daddy thing a little bit, and his partnership with Diageo, how he launched, and what a unbelievably huge company they are. Like how Ciroc, this one niche vodka booze, was skyrocketed through this association with him back in the day, and it is. Totally. I think that's a good thing to point out. And what's cool is it's not alcohol, because there is this backlash about alcohol right now. A little bit. And that I think everyone I know is feeling that. Everyone I know who drinks is questioning why they drink at this point in their life.
Why is that, you think?
Good timing. Because it's a neurotoxin probably. I would think. And it's just sort of it's just people questioning whether the juice is worth the squeeze, I think. Why do you think?
I kind of think the same thing. Alcohol is a weird one, man. It's it's been part of our culture for such a long time that we've almost all kind of fallen into this collective illusion that we're just all enabling each other's use of it. Is kind of how I feel about it. It's a weird thing. It's so big of a thing that it's almost invisible. We don't realize how much of a utility alcohol actually is in our society. Comparable, I think, to coffee. It doesn't You go to the grocery store, it's there. You go to the bar, it's there. You go to you go to a restaurant, and there's actually an altar built in the middle of the restaurant dedicated to a drug that is called alcohol. What the fuck's that about? Like, I'm not saying it's whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's a phenomenal thing for sure. It's a supernatural. Like it's an odd thing.
It's a spirit.
So,
it's a spiritual thing. It's spirits. Why is it called spirits? What does that mean?
My theory is because it influences the way you feel and how you are, and that's why, again, whether it's an energy drink or a BRÄZ or alcohol, these are powerful products that are kind of like outside the traditional category class of CPG. It's like cheese puffs don't make me feel that different. You know what I mean? They maybe that little pleasure from the sugar or the cheese, whatever. But like, it's not like the same.
It's not liquid courage. It's not liquid. Literally, it's liquid courage, right? Like you're taking it so that your behavior will change. It's sort of like, and it takes the agency away from you a little bit. It's like, oh, I'll have the courage to kiss her, or I'll have the courage to do this. And then it's like, what are you doing with the rest of your life if you're requiring on the craziest mindfuck for me was hearing someone talk about happy hour. And there's this thing on earth called happy hour, and you're allowed to be happy during happy hour. And that's when your drinks are 10% cheaper and you have these small plates or whatever. But it's like, what have they done to us? As I Think You Should Leave has said so well.
It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. I think about it all the time, so much so that I started a brand all about it. But like, honestly, dude, it's been a little challenging lately, because it's like, alcohol actually owns like the existing infrastructure around distribution of products like BRÄZ, and they like own it, like they run it. There's a thing called a 3-tier system, which means that there's the brand, the retailer, the distributor, and then the brand, and you can't own all three. You have to own one or the other, and that's to break up the idea of a monopoly, which was really important back at the end of Prohibition when these guys were all the same people. It's really not as important these days, but that's how the system has been designed. So I say that because it's like, it's challenging to be in a position like BRÄZ, because BRÄZ is an alcohol alternative, and there's benefits to drinking BRÄZ over alcohol. Yet at the same time, for mass distribution, I'm somewhat reliant on alcohol distributors. And if I come out here and say, fuck alcohol, then, there's a bit of like we're not helping BRÄZ get distributed aspect to it. And this is, I guess, like in a grander scheme of it, man, it's like, it's really not about the demonization of alcohol or people who drink alcohol. Who cares? The point is that there are all kinds of ways to feel better, and people shouldn't have such a limited choice to what they're using to feel better. And like, my real like enemy in all of this is alcohol abuse. Like, alcohol abuse is a serious thing, and I think alcohol would completely agree with me that like alcohol abuse is a problem, and we're all fighting against alcohol abuse. And BRÄZ is a really great product for someone who has had a past with alcohol abuse. Like, you're gonna get a sense of relief and satisfaction and like relaxation and maybe some euphoria and like just positive vibes in a very like not harmful way, like a very generative way, especially compared to abusing alcohol. So maybe I could rant about this stuff for a while, but it's a funny thing to dance, man. Like, dude, like when like alcohol's a $250 billion industry. Think about how many major old school industries were disrupted in the last 20 years, 30 years. Okay. Whether it was the phone book or an encyclopedia,
travel agents. Yeah.
What about the cab industry? Do you know what's never been disrupted? Alcohol.
Yeah. Not significantly, no. What an amazing opportunity. Talk to me about bootstrapping this bad boy too, because it's like CPG brands, like there is this sense that you really need a war chest to kind of get into this game. Talk to me about bootstrapping this bad boy.
So I'm married, really wealthy. No, I'm just kidding.
Easy.
That's what I recommend. Just kidding. The key is, for me, it was like I started Lucid in 2018, and Lucid became a very successful agency. And so, like, the nice thing, the horrible thing about agencies is that it's a what have you done for me lately business, where you are just like constantly grinding and working and like trying to keep things working, and it's a tough business. The great thing about agencies is they're cash cows. Like, they spit off cash really effectively, and you work your tail off for it. But like, if you keep it running, they have good profit margins. It's a service-based business, and like many agencies are in the 20 to 50% of profit range. And so over building the years, I was able to accrue a little bit of wealth. So I had some capital available. Also, my partners had a little bit of capital available that they were willing to contribute. And so we invested like collectively all in to like get the thing going. It was an injection of like 50 and then 100 and then another 50 and then another 50 or something like that. All in, it was like 250 to get the thing going. And, like to your point about like CPG products being really expensive, there's two reasons for that. One is the infrastructure or like the build up cost necessary to come up with a product, formulate it, buy enough inventory, go through that iterative process. Two is a lot of CPG products, especially in the beverage world, like are reliant on distribution, retail distribution, because it doesn't really make sense to do a direct to consumer model for beverage most of the time. So you have to invest pretty heavily in a sales team and like a lot of upfront costs that essentially put you pretty far into the red ever before you get the opportunity to make any money. And so we didn't do it that way. Like I knew direct to consumer. I've been doing direct to consumer since I was 13 years old. I'm 30. I have a lot of experience in this world. I just get it. I have a lot of friends like you who are masters of this world. I got friends like Nick. I have all these friends that know this game. So we just built this company about what we knew, what I knew, and that was D2C. And so there's things that are like embedded into it that are to the aware person from the D2C, from the experienced person in D2C, they'll see it. Like there's the unit economics of BRÄZ are built to be a D2C brand. Like BRÄZ is expensive. One, because it's really quality product, but not only, also because to make a D2C beverage brand work, it has to cost a certain level to make a high enough AOV so that I can pay for the CACs necessary to, which is also part of why the subscription is such a heavy discount. You get 25% off BRÄZ if you subscribe on a biweekly basis and 20% off if you subscribe on a monthly basis. So that increases, and I'm willing to lose a little bit of money on that subscriber to then pick it up on month 2, month 3. And I know the LTV numbers. And so to facilitate that. And so I guess my point that is like the company from day one was built to be a direct to consumer business and to have a business model that would support it. So that way I knew that after investing that initial capital that we would have a model that if we could, achieve product market fit quickly and get some strong creatives to get some strong CACs, it wouldn't take long to achieve profitability. And it didn't. We were profitable within 6 months, if not like 4 months, in something like that.
And you were building outside of this liquor-owned distribution system, right? Whereas if you were a liquor thing, you'd be playing their game, trying to get in their stores all the time. I'm sure you're doing that eventually, but I think I understand. It's almost all D2C. Like it's all like BRÄZ's success is 90%. Driven like 90% with things like Meta, a little bit by Snapchat.
It's really not all D2C anymore. Like, thankfully, we're maturing to becoming more of like a proper beverage brand. But like the majority of our success is D2C up to this point. The trouble is like it grew so quickly and it got so big on the D2C side. It's hard to like lift up the retail to the speed that the D2C is at. So on the retail side, so flipping the script for a second, 90% of revenue comes from D2C, 10% is coming from retail at the moment, getting closer to 15%. But like retail went from like 70,000 or from like 20,000 to like 50,000 to like 90,000 to 140,000 to 240, and I think we're probably around 300,000 and targeting 420,000 for November in retail sales.
Where is this selling?
Total Wine in Florida and in Texas. Convenience stores, liquor stores, grocery stores, coffee shops, restaurants, bars, a lot of bars. Anywhere you would buy alcohol is kind of like the type of place that BRÄZ would be sold. Sometimes
I
places
see that
you buy
being
coffee
a big
shops.
move. Like there's non-alcoholic options for people, but I haven't been to too many bars yet where they have these. I know a lot of people who do drink cannabis beverages instead of booze. So I could see that being a huge growth area.
Isn't that crazy how fast that happened, by the way? Like that wasn't a thing 2 years ago. Like people didn't drink cannabis beverages. And now like pretty much anywhere you go in most states, you can find a cannabis beverage and like they're at places now too. Like at restaurants and bars. And dude, we're in the first inning of that shit. Like it's gonna get and the thing is, man, it's like cat's out of the bag on this one. Like people, I really like this quote, which is the future is obvious but unexpected. A lot of the cannabis guys that invested all this money in cannabis thought, oh, this is gonna be just like booze. This is gonna be just like booze. Like everyone's gonna we're gonna buy joints like we buy beers. like, dude, if you've ever smoked a joint, you don't smoke joints like you drink a beer. Like,
No.
it's not the same cadence. It's not the same strength. It's not the same experience. You also don't rip out a joint with your group of your buddies at the party and be part of the mix. Like, it's offensive. It smells. And
Depends on the
you're
party,
in a different
but yeah.
place. For sure. Like, I mean, if everyone's smoking, maybe, but like, if I'm the one guy who doesn't drink and I rip out a joint, like, I'm probably going to piss off my buds, you know? Or like, I was hanging out at a bar with some friends yesterday, or not a bar, at a taco shop with some friends yesterday, and people were drinking. I'm like, guys, can you imagine if I ripped out a joint right now? Like, it would be like the most disruptive possible thing in this restaurant. It's like, yet we're all drinking alcohol. But if I opened a BRÄZ, no one would care, nor know any different. Like, and I'd be on the same vibe. So this is the obvious but unexpected. Cannabis beverage and nano-emulsified technology, which makes it fast-acting and short-lasting, comparable to alcohol, is the obvious but unexpected evolution of cannabis that will make it truly a mainstream product comparable to alcohol. And like, now it's just a matter of time. And I'm really grateful that BRÄZ has had the opportunity to scale and lead the category. Dude, it's the biggest cannabis beverage in the world now.
That's unbelievable.
I know.
And now,
crazy.
so back to D2C for a sec. Like, what are you? So the number one thing that that determines whether a CBG product is going to work or not is whether it gets picked up. Whether and that's usually on shelf. Like, okay, that looks cool. That's something different. That's a new category. So. How do you describe the success that you've had on a platform like Meta? That's probably driven a good chunk of this growth. What works there for you?
It's a lot of things, but I think probably like what works best is. I think, dude, you know, like another quote I like is like, change happens when the people who need it lead it. My friend told me that one time. He runs a nonprofit here in West Palm called the Inner City Innovation, and he does amazing work. But I really like that quote because it's like, I think what's working is like, I wanted an alcohol alternative. I wanted something like, I used to drink a lot of alcohol. I don't drink alcohol anymore. And it kind of left a hole where I'm like, dude, I love hanging out with people and having like a social beverage to like chill and hang out. But I didn't really like the negative consequences that were coming with alcohol. And like, I know whatever part of myself felt that isn't really Aaron. It's the same part of Eric that feels that when he drinks. It's the same part of everyone who feels that when they drink. And so I knew that like if I was feeling that way at some level, everyone is feeling that way. And so if I can make a product that solves for that, and you know, I learned from really awesome people. There's beverages like Can and Hyo and other Can Euphorics that did some cool stuff prior that I was all, you know, I'm standing on the shoulder of giants per se, you know, like kind of like we all are with new ideas. Like, but I knew that like if there was something uplifting and social and relaxing comparable to that actually scratched the itch. This is the thing. Actually scratch, like alcohol's a powerful drug. Like people should not be fooled. It's not like freaking, you know, drinking a chamomile tea. It's, you know, it can knock you on your ass if you're not careful. So like you have to have something strong enough and effective enough yet safe. And so we built that. And so then the game is just communicating that, dude. Like, you know, the thing about ads these days, and I've been in e-commerce and meta advertising for a long time. Like everyone's so trying to sell people shit and come up with like this new angle of like, hey, you know, like I'm not really trying to do that. I'm trying to say very clearly and very simply that BRÄZ isn't microdose cannabis and mushrooms in a can. It's a euphoric, uplifting, and exciting alcohol alternative that's going to scratch that itch without the downsides traditionally associated with alcohol. It's subtle and it's stackable. It's fast acting and it's short lasting. You can drink it anywhere you would drink alcohol normally and be clear, conscious, and feel good in the process without feeling worse later. You might even sleep better. That's not me really selling it. I'm just like really just expressing it. And I try to do that as sincerely and consciously as I can through creative that feels like I'm talking to you through FaceTime rather than doing some Hollywood ad campaign. And I think that resonates with a lot of people. And it's a great product, dude. More important than anything. Like you can sell anything once. The question is it a good enough product that people will keep coming back for it? And it's a great product. It actually does fulfill those things I just said. And I give a lot of credit to my team for that. Travis Duncan, amazing formulator. Preston Campbell, PhD in pharmacology, who's helped supported us along the way. Great ingredient partners. Like we made a great product. And so great marketing facilitates, you know, there's two things that matter in business. innovation and distribution. Like that innovation it was critical because like all this great marketing that I know or Nick knows or any of these other guys know, none of that shit matters unless you have a great product to go with it. So I feel like we're just really focused on doing those two things well, and then they feed each other.
I feel like you're just really living your truth. There's a phrase that ChatGPT reminded me of when I was prepping for this interview, just sort of faith in abundance. And I feel like that, you think you sort of embody that a little. Talked a little bit about your mindset when it comes to business.
I appreciate that. My mindset when it comes to business.
And around abundance, I think a lot of people have trouble imagining. Like you're talking about having this opportunity in front of you, this like a really hard to fathom the scale. But it's like you kind of have to fathom the scale if you want to get there. Yeah,
100 billion.
You have to.
It's about that.
You know
size.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And to play in that space, it's like you have to allow your mind to believe that that's possible in a way.
You have to die to yourself. I think that's how you do it. Like, if I've learned anything, like, it's like, the thing is, like, man, it's like, I didn't like make my bones work together like this today. Like I just woke up, like I have no clue if I'm going to wake up tomorrow, but I probably will because I woke up this morning. Like I have enough realization that like I'm not actually in charge of any of this shit going on. I'm just living it, and I have enough awareness to know that I'm not gonna be here forever. And so like I have a lot of faith and trust that like I should go out and try to make the world as great of a place as I can and give my best effort forward and dream as big as and wildly as I possibly can and try to bring that down to reality in the short amount of time I have. And that's a very good thing to do. And there's not much to lose by doing that. And in fact, the real risk is by not doing that. Like, and like when you put that in perspective, that the real risk is not trying, the real risk is not trying, then trying is the only thing to do. And why not just give it everything you got? And, it's like if it doesn't work, at least you gave it your all in that process. And oftentimes, dude, I think there's a Terrence McKinnon quote about this. He's a big psychedelic guy. I think he says with the big secret of all the ages, of all the occult, of all the hidden societies, the big secret is that if you can muster enough courage to jump off the cliff, you realize that it's a bunch of pillows at the bottom, and it's really not this scary thing, and that most things are actually very achievable, and that a lot of people are out there who want to support you in achieving them. So I live into that.
I love that. I love Terrence McKenna. He also says, find the others. And I feel like that's something that's always resonated with me, especially when I do this podcast, when I meet people in person, when I get to, hang out with you for an hour here on the DTC podcast. I really appreciate it, Aaron.
Of course, dude.
You got to go to drinkbreeze.com. And check it out if you want. I know you're not in Canada. Soon I will be able to get BRÄZ in Canada.
We are actually now. Flow's
cool.
available in Canada. Not the THC one yet, but
okay.
We have so that's the other kind of thing with BRÄZ is my kind of real bet here is that it's not just infused THC CBD drinks that are going to be the future. It's functional drinking completely. Like I think people are going to be looking for drinks that create some level of function in their life. So this is called BRÄZ Flow. Flow is that state of like effortless momentum. When kind of like what we're doing now, we're kind of just dialed in. We're just flowing. We're feeling good and having a great time, focused, clear. The goal is to create that feeling within this can, and we use cacao, lion's mane, black seed, and L-theanine to combine those ingredients and at efficacious doses that are safe to create that experience. And I think we did it. So that's the other line, and that one is available both in Canada and Europe, UK, and a few other places as well now, which is exciting.
Fantastic. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the DTC podcast today. I recommend everyone go follow Aaron on Twitter. I'll throw his handle in the show notes here just because it's fun to follow along. You guys just keep knocking off wins with your momentum.
Thanks, man. I'm going to share more of the losses because they happen at scale. So got to figure out how to get that. But dude, I really appreciate you having me on the show. I think what you're doing for the DTC community, what you have been doing for years is quite the service, and I'm grateful for it. So thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks, brother. We'll do it again soon. I will dive into some of the fuck ups on our next podcast.
Deal.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at directtoconsumer, all one word, .co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the DTC Podcast. We'll see you next time.